Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala module Biogeochemical Cycle under the paper Environmental Chemistry. In this module, we will discuss about the different biogeochemical cycles which includes carbon, sulfur, oxygen, phosphorus and nitrogen cycle. Different biogeochemical process and tectonic process, they regularly changes the chemical content of different lithosphere, biosphere, hydrosphere and atmosphere through the transportation, erosion, sedimentation and different other process. So basically these closed circuit system move the nutrients from one sphere to another sphere, and these cycles partly they move through sedimentary system, or sometime they also take place through different atmosphere or hydrosphere through the biota. These superimposed on these large scale cycles, there are faster loops that involve smaller reservoirs including the biota. In the following module, we will concentrate on the global cycles of the elements which are most prominently involve the biological cycles carbon, oxygen, sulfur, nitrogen and phosphorus. Every life form needs to actively uptake some elements called nutrients to maintain their biological activity. These nutrients provide the structural framework of organism and energy through biochemical energy process. Few of them are essential nutrients, and without their supply, growth cannot take place in an organism. When these nutrients are part of organism or environment, they are called as in their biotic phase or abiotic phase respectively. Certainly, by passing through different phases, these nutrients complete closed circuit cycle movement, as Earth is a closed system. The supplies of these nutrients are from finite sources of Earth system. This closed circuit movement and transformation of nutrients from geochemical to biological and to geochemical is called as biogeochemical cycle of nutrients. The continuation of this cycle is dependent on a sustained energy supply into the system. Most of them is coming from sun and remaining from Earth's internal energy. Out of 16-17 nutrients, 9 are essential nutrients which are required in larger amount for and form 99% of body mass of most of the organism. They are oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, carbon, calcium, magnesium, potassium, phosphorus and sulfur. These cycles are linked through biological and geochemical transformation steps within the system environment. Nutrient cycles of prominent compounds are varying in their transformation step and relative importance through biological and geochemical phase. Biological transformation of nitrogen, sulfur, carbon and oxygen nutrient cycle have great significant role in operation and completion of cycle. Other nutrients have essentially more geochemical operation in their relative importance. That's why these elements are required to discuss in details. And basically sulfur and phosphorus, because their movement is through the lithosphere, they called as sedimentary cycle. The biogeochemical cycle of nutrients in nature is nature's recycling system. All forms of recycling have feedback loops that use energy in the process of putting material resources back into the use. Recycling in ecology is regulated to a large extent during the process of decomposition. Ecosystems employ biodiversity in the food webs that recycle natural materials such as mineral nutrients. Recycling in natural system is one of the many ecosystem services that sustain and contribute to the well-being of human societies. The earth has a finite quantity of chemical elements from its formation. Because the chemicals on earth function in a closed system, neither significantly increasing nor decreasing in quantity, they are recycled throughout the earth's biological and geological cycles. These cycles include both the living biosphere and the non-living lithosphere, atmosphere and hydrosphere. Hence, box models are used to portray the cycling of elements through the environment. Plants absorb nutrients from soil and water and in some cases from the atmosphere. Nutrient cycle involves the movement and exchange of organic and inorganic matter back into the production of living matter. The process is regulated by food web pathways and that decompose matter into mineral nutrients. Nutrient cycles occur within ecosystems. Ecosystems are interconnected systems where matter and energy flows and is exchanged from one step to other step as organisms feed, digest and migrate about. Minerals and nutrients accumulate in varied densities and uneven configurations across the planet. Ecosystems recycle locally, converting mineral nutrients into the production of biomass, and on a larger scale, they participate in a global system of inputs and outputs where matter is exchanged and transported through a larger system of biogeochemical cycles. Now we will discuss about the oxygen cycle in details. Earth is an oxygen-rich planet where we live. Oxygen availability on Earth varies from 23% in atmosphere to 85% in ocean on the basis of weight by weight of oxygen molecules. Earth crust oxygen accounts for 46% of total weight. Most of the oxygen in the crust presents as silicate, tetrahedral unit and aluminosilicate minerals. The oxygen cycle portrays how the flow of oxygen occurs through the several parts of our vast ecosystem. Oxygen is found in several parts of the ecosystem, from the air we breathe and the water bodies on the planet, inside the biological beings biosphere and inside the earth crust lithosphere. Oxygen cycle steps can pass on from atmosphere, biosphere, hydrosphere and lithosphere. In atmosphere, only a small percentage of world oxygen is present in the atmosphere. This exchange of gaseous oxygen happens through photolysis. Photolysis, this is the process by which molecules like atmospheric water and nitrous oxide are broken down by the ultraviolet radiation coming from the sun and release free oxygen. Through the biosphere, the exchange of oxygen between the living beings on the planet, between the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom. The exchange of oxygen in the biosphere is codependent on the carbon cycle and hydrogen cycle as well. It mainly occurs through two processes, which is very renowned: photosynthesis and respiration. Photosynthesis is the process by which plants make energy by taking in carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and give out oxygen, and through respiration, the process by which animals and a human take the oxygen from the atmosphere and use it to break down carbohydrates and give out carbon dioxide. Through the lithosphere, the part of the planet containing the most of the oxygen content through biomass, organic content and mineral deposits. These deposits are formed when free radical elements were exposed to free oxygen, and over time they form silicates and oxide. The trapped oxygen is released back due to several weathering process. Also, animals and plants draw nutrients material from the lithosphere and free some of the trapped oxygen. In hydrosphere, oxygen dissolved in water is responsible for the sustenance of the aquatic ecosystem present beneath the surface. The hydrosphere is 33% oxygen by volume, present mainly as a component of water molecules with dissolved molecules including carbonic acid and free oxygen. The oxygen cycle is also coupled with water cycle, as oxygen is a basic constituent of water. So precipitation is a vital component of how water moves through Earth's water cycle, connecting the ocean, land and atmosphere. Knowing where it rains, how much it rains and character of the falling rains, snow or hails allows scientists to better understand precipitation impact on streams, rivers, surface, runoff and groundwater. Frequent and detailed measurements help scientists make models of and determine the change in Earth's water cycle. The water cycle describes how water evaporates from the surface of the earth, rises into the atmosphere, cools and condenses into rain or snow in clouds and falls again to the surface as precipitation. The water falling on land collects in river and lakes, soil and porous layer of the rock, and much of it flow back into the ocean, where it will once again evaporates. The cycling water in an in and out of the atmosphere is significant aspect of weather patterns on Earth. The next cycle is carbon cycle. The carbon cycle is the circulation and transformation of carbon back and forth between living things and the environment. Hence, it is convenient to consider the carbon in the cycle to be either inorganic or organic. CO2 and the related species, carbonate and bicarbonate, constitute the vast bulk of the inorganic carbon, while organic carbon is that found in organic, fossil fuel and other dispersed molecules. Carbon is often referred to as the building blocks of the life because living things are based on carbon and carbon compounds. The amount of carbon on the earth and in Earth's atmosphere is fixed, but that fixed amount of carbon is dynamic, always changing into different carbon compounds and moving between living and non-living things. Within the carbon cycle, one of the most important reservoirs, the atmosphere, is also one of the smallest. This reservoir is important because it influences the radiation balance and the global climate of the earth. Because of its small size compared to the other carbon reservoirs, the CO2 content of the atmosphere can be changed rapidly and is largely governed by exchange and biogeochemical reactions occurring within and between the other reservoirs. Exchange between atmosphere and these different carbon reservoirs regulate atmospheric CO2 on many different time scales. Carbon is released to the atmosphere from what are called carbon source and stored in plants, animal, rocks and water in what are called carbon sinks. This process occurs in a number of steps. In the first step, through photosynthesis, the process by which plants capture the sun energy, uses it to grow. Plants take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and release oxygen. The carbon dioxide is converted into carbon compounds that make up the body of the plant, which are stored in both and above ground parts of the plants and the below ground parts. In the next step, animals eat the plant, breathe in the oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide created by animals is then available for plants to use in photosynthesis. Carbon stored in plants that are not eaten by animals eventually decomposes after the plants die and is either released into the atmosphere or stored in the soil. Large quantities of carbon can be released to the atmosphere through geologic process like volcanic eruption and other natural changes that destabilize carbon sinks. For example, increasing temperature can cause carbon dioxide to be released from the ocean. In simplistic terms, plants take up the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere through photosynthesis and create carbohydrate that animals and humans use for food, shelter and energy to sustain life. Emissions from plants and human activities return carbon to the atmosphere, thereby completing the carbon cycle. This is the essence of the biological carbon cycle, which is nearly a closed system. About 99.9% of carbon fixed by photosynthesis return back to the ocean and atmosphere via respiration. Carbon cycles through the system and moves between reservoirs. The balance of the carbon exchanges between the reservoirs make up the carbon budget. When the inputs to a reservoir exceed the outputs, the amount of carbon in the reservoir is increased and it is considered a carbon sink, a place where carbon is stored. When the outputs from the reservoir exceed the inputs, it is considered a carbon source, a place from which carbon is emitted. Non-atmospheric sinks are important for offsetting carbon emissions and preventing global warming. Investigating the factors affecting sources and sinks can inform management decisions aimed at getting us closer to a balanced carbon budget. A carbon cycle can be studied as a series of nested loops recycling carbon through the atmosphere at different rates. Changes in atmospheric CO2 on millennial time scales, geological time scale, are controlled by tectonically driven exchange of carbon with the lithosphere or entire ocean, the upper sediment layer and the upper crust. Changes in the atmospheric carbon dioxide on decadal to centennial time scales involve exchange between atmosphere, intermediate depth ocean water, and soil organic carbon. Changes on the decadal to annual time scale involves exchange between atmosphere, upper ocean, leaf litter, and land biomass. Changes on a seasonal time scale involves the cycle of respiration, photosynthesis of land biomass. The cycle peaks in August while about 2 parts per million of carbon dioxide drawn out of the atmosphere in the fall and winter as vegetation dies back in the northern hemisphere. Decomposition and respiration return carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. In August, the green areas of North America, Europe, and Asia represent plants using carbon from the atmosphere to grow. In December, net primary productivity at higher latitude is negative, which outweigh the seasonal increase in vegetation in the southern hemisphere. As a result, the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere increases. The carbon cycle process involve photosynthesis, respiration, weathering. So already we have discussed about the photosynthesis and respiration process as a well-known process of carbon absorption and release of oxygen. In weathering, which is slow carbon cycle, the carbon takes between 100 to 200 million years to move between rocks, soil, ocean, and atmosphere in the slow carbon cycle. On an average, 10 to power 13 to 10 to power 14 grams of carbon move through the slow carbon cycle every year. Carbonate rocks and metamorphism of carbonates, these are the part of the cycle of weathering process where carbon exchange takes place. The movement of the carbon from atmosphere to the lithosphere begins with the rain. Atmospheric carbon combines with water to form a weak acid, carbonic acid, that falls to the surface in rain. The acid dissolved rock, which is called chemical weathering, and releases calcium, magnesium, potassium, or sodium ions, reverse carry the ions to the ocean. Chemistry regulates this exchange of the carbon between ocean, land, and atmosphere. If carbon dioxide rises in the atmosphere because of an increase in the volcanic activity, for example, temperature rises leading to more rain which dissolve more rock, creating more ions that will eventually deposit more carbon on the ocean floor. It takes a few 100,000 years to rebalance the slow carbon cycle through chemical weathering. The next cycle is nitrogen cycle, which is also a part of the very important building blocks of any life forms. Nitrogen, one of the primary nutrients essential for the life or survival of the all living organisms. It is a essential component of many biomolecules, including fundamental amino acid, DNA, RNA, protein, base pair in nucleic acids, and chlorophyll. Although nitrogen very abundant in the atmosphere as dinitrogen gas N2, it is largely inaccessible in this form to most organisms, making nitrogen a scarce resource and often limiting primary productivity in many ecosystems. Their accessible or adsorbable form is ammonia or nitrate. In order for plants and animals to be able to use, nitrogen must be in form of ammonium and nitrate or organic nitrogen. In addition to N2 and ammonia, nitrogen exists in many different forms, including both inorganic and organic. In organic, that is ammonia and nitrate. In organic, they are amino acid and nucleic acid forms. Thus, nitrogen undergoes many different transformations in the ecosystem, changing from one form to another as organisms use it for growth and in some cases also energy. The major transformation of nitrogen are nitrogen fixation, nitrification, denitrification, and ammonification. The transformation of nitrogen into its many oxidation states is key to productivity in the biosphere and is highly dependent on the activities of diverse assemblage of microorganisms such as bacteria, archaea, and fungi. There are several steps involved in nitrogen cycle. Basically, that is fixation of the nitrogen fixation, nitrification, and denitrification. All these things are the part of the nitrogen cycle. So to convert the atmospheric nitrogen into usable nitrogen, 5 steps are involved. First is nitrogen fixation, nitrification, assimilation, anomaux, and then denitrification. Nitrogen fixation is the process by which gaseous nitrogen is converted to ammonia via biological fixation or nitrate through high energy physical processes. N2 is extremely stable and a great deal of energy is required to break the bonds that join the two nitrogen atoms. N2 can be converted directly into the nitrate through processes that exert a tremendous amount of heat, pressure and energy. Such processes include combustion, volcanic action, lightning discharge and industrial means. However, a greater amount of biologically available nitrogen is naturally generated via the biological conversion of N2 to ammonia or ammonium ion. A small group of bacteria and cyanobacteria are capable using the energy nitrogenase to using the enzyme nitrogenase to break the bonds among the molecular nitrogen and combine it with hydrogen. Nitrogenase only function in the absence of oxygen. The exclusion of oxygen is accomplished by many means. Some bacteria live beneath layers of the oxygen, excluding slime on the roots of certain plants. The most important soil-dwelling bacteria, Rhizobium, live in oxygen-free zones in nodules on the roots of legumes and some other woody plants. Nitrification is a two-step process in which ammonia or ammonium ion is converted to nitrate. Firstly, the soil bacteria Nitrosomonas and Nitrosococcus convert ammonia to nitrite and then another soil bacteria, Bacterium nitrobacter, oxidize nitrite to nitrate. These bacteria gain energy through these conversions, both of which require oxygen to occur. Assimilation is the process by which plants and animals incorporate the nitrate and ammonia formed through nitrogen fixation and nitrification. Plants take up these forms of nitrogen through their roots and incorporate them into plant proteins and nucleic acid. Animals are then able to utilize nitrogen from the plant tissue. Anomaux is the process. All nitrification was thought to be carried out under aerobic condition. But recently, a new type of ammonia oxidation occur under anaerobic condition was discovered. Anomaux anaerobic ammonia oxidation is carried out by prokaryotes belonging to the Planktomycetes phylum of bacteria. The first described anomaux bacterium was Brocardia anomoxidia. Anomaux bacteria oxidize ammonia by using nitrite as the electron acceptor to produce gaseous nitrogen. Anomaux bacteria were first discovered in anaerobic bioreactors of wastewater treatment plants, but have since been found in a variety of aquatic systems, including low oxygen zones of the ocean, coastal and estuarine sediments, mangroves, and freshwater lakes. In some areas of ocean, the anomaux process is considered to be responsible for significant loss of nitrogen. Anomaux and denitrification is responsible for most nitrogen loss in the ocean, and it is clear that anomaux represents an important process in the global nitrogen cycle. Then, after completing the discussion on carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen cycle, there is two most important sedimentary nutrient cycle, that is sulfur cycle and phosphorus cycle. Sulfur is one of the components that make up proteins and vitamins. Proteins consist of amino acid that contains sulfur atoms. Sulfur is important for functioning of proteins and enzymes in plants and animals. Plants absorb sulfur when it is dissolved in water. Animals consume these plants so that they take up enough sulfur to maintain their health. Most of the Earth's sulfur is tied up in the rocks, and salts are buried deep in the ocean in oceanic sediments. Sulfur can also be found in the atmosphere. It enters the atmosphere through both natural and human source. Natural resources can be, for instance, volcanic eruption, evaporation from water, or decaying organisms. Sulfur enters the atmosphere through anthropogenic activity, which is mainly a consequence of industrial process where sulfur dioxide and hydrogen sulfide gases are emitted on a wide scale. When sulfur dioxide enters the atmosphere, it reacts with oxygen to produce sulfur dioxide. or with other chemicals in the atmosphere to produce sulfur salts. Sulfur dioxide may also react with water to produce sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid may also be produced from dimethyl sulfide, which is emitted to the atmosphere by plankton species. Sulfur cycle basically comprise of atmosphere where different gases or sulfur dioxide get converted to sulfur dioxide and sulfuric acid and reach to the earth crystal surface, and in the soil that it get assimilate in the plant and animal body, and after decaying it recirculated in the lithosphere through the aerobic and anaerobic condition in soil and water. The next cycle is phosphorus cycle. Phosphorus is an essential nutrient for plants and animals in the form of ions, phosphate and hypophosphate. It makes up an important part of DNA, RNA molecules that store energy like molecules like ATP and ADP, and of fats of cell membranes. Phosphorus is also a building block of certain parts of the human and animal body such as bones and teeth. Phosphorus can be found on earth in water, soil and sediments. Unlike the compounds of other matter cycle, phosphorus cannot be found in air in the gaseous state. This is because phosphorus is usually liquid at normal temperature and pressure. It is mainly cycling through water, soil and sediments. In the atmosphere, phosphorus can mainly be found as very small dust particles. Phosphorus moves slowly from deposits on land in sediments to living organism and then much more slowly back into the soil and water sediment. Phosphorus is most commonly found in rock formation and ocean sediments as phosphate salts. Phosphate salts that are released from rocks through weathering usually dissolve in soil water and will be absorbed by plants. Because the quantity of phosphorus in soil is generally small, it is often act as a limiting factor for plant growth. That is why humans often apply phosphate fertilizers on farmland. Phosphates are also limiting factors for plant growth in marine ecosystem because they are not very water soluble. Animals absorb phosphate by eating plants or plant eating animals. Phosphorus cycles through plants and animals much faster than it does through rocks and sediments. When animals and plants die, phosphate will return to the soil or ocean again during their decay. After that, phosphorus will end up in sediments or rock formation again and remain there for millions of years. Eventually, phosphorus is released again through weathering and the cycle starts over. To sum up the biogeochemical cycles, these nutrient cycles are required to recirculate in the different lithosphere, atmosphere, biosphere and hydrosphere. These nutrients are building blocks of all life forms, which may include as nitrogen, hydrogen, sulfur, carbon and oxygen cycle. These nutrients, they can also affect the different compartment of environment such as atmosphere or lithosphere or hydrosphere if concentration of these nutrients are get altered. There are different anthropogenic pressures on different biogeochemical cycle where through which these concentration of cycles are getting affected. One of most exemplified example of an alteration is carbon cycle, where climate change is directly linked with the alteration of the chemical or carbon dioxide concentration in atmosphere. Thank you.